We're back, baby. Welcome into the Alabama Football Report by Chat Sports. I am Tom Downey. We've expanded things here at Chat Sports, and we're getting back and going on our Alabama football channel. Perfect timing with the coaching searches for OC and DC, the coordinators, underway. If you want more Alabama football videos moving forward, we need to show my bosses that it's something that you guys want. So head down to the comments section and flood it with me, or me's if you want to do it multiple times right now. Just type in those me's so we can show the bosses this is what you guys want. Today's show on the eve of National Signing Day is all about the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator searches. We begin on offense because that's more fun, right? A bit of a surprise here, given Nick Saban's track record. Ryan Grubb, the still Washington offensive coordinator, has reportedly passed on taking the Alabama job. Now, I will make note that it's the whole no one's offered a job until after they accept it type of thing. But clearly Alabama was in the mix for Grubb, and Grubb, at least at minimum, is pulled out of the running on his own. We can argue whether or not he was officially offered, silent offer, whatever. Bama was interested. They did not get him. And that's surprising because it's not often that Alabama, and especially with Nick Saban, miss on their coaching targets or even recruiting, which we'll have some videos for you guys on, or a video on for you guys tomorrow. So let's look then at where the OC search sits. Who's in the mix for this job? The big name is still Jeff Lebby, if you believe the reports, out of Oklahoma. Seems like he's going to stick around with the Sooners, remain as the offensive coordinator, so maybe Lebby doesn't end up jumping ship to Alabama. That might be his own choice. Maybe he's not even the top candidate for Alabama either. Still a little bit of a conflicting reports, hush-hush info who Bama's really targeting right now. Some NFL-connected-ish coaches. Joe Brady, who of course was the LSU play caller in that stint with Joe Burrow, and maybe Burrow just made him really good. Joe Brady currently is the Bills quarterbacks coach. Now, it was a quick ascent from Joe Brady, who was a Penn State grad assistant in 2015, to the Panthers offensive coordinator spot in 2020. Got fired in Carolina, went to the Bills as the quarterback coach, is still there. He's drawn some NFL offensive coordinator buzz. Big question for Brady, does he want to recruit? I'm not sure he does. Brian Johnson's a very intriguing name, especially for someone who covers the NFL and is doing OC searches on that front. He is currently the Eagles quarterbacks coach. He's been a coordinator, 2020 with Florida, 2017 with Houston. He was Dak Prescott's quarterbacks coach at Mississippi State from 2014-2016. He's drawn some buzz around the NFL. A jump to the Alabama offensive coordinator spot would be awesome if he wants to be a college head coach. If he wants to be an NFL head coach, he'll probably stick in that league. We got some more OC and, of course, a lot of DC stuff to get to, but what is your confidence level in Nick Saban to get these hires right? I think it's pretty high. It's Nick Saban. He doesn't miss very often. So let me know in the comments at the pinned comment. 1 to 10. 1 on the low end, 10 on the high end. If an ad break comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there. Let us know your confidence level in Nick Saban to nail these coaching hires. All these names were really kind of mentioned in depth by 24/7 Sports and others out there. The Greg Roman idea is interesting. It would fit the Nick Saban school for coaches who can't coach good and willing to do other stuff good too mindset, but I don't love his passing game constructs. I think he's a great run game designer. I don't know if that works as well as I'd like it to in college football. Some more pure college coaches who have been linked out there. Alabama analyst Derek Dooley, which... I don't know about that one there, Jim. Of course, quick ascent to the Tennessee Volunteers head coach position. Then gets fired, joins up with Jason Garrett, who's friends with Nick Saban, as the Cowboys wide receivers coach. Soft landing for him. He was probably not going to be brought back in 2018 as the Missouri offensive coordinator. Joined up again with Garrett with the Giants and is now just the analyst role for Alabama. That one really feels like for some reason, we couldn't get anyone to get this job, and you settle on Derek Dooley as your fallback option. A similar coach with a different-ish career path is Freddie Kitchens, the South Carolina analyst, because he was once the Browns head coach, and he and Todd Monken had one of the weirdest dynamics I've ever seen. Monken, by the way, feels like he's got a good chance to get the Bucs offensive coordinator gig, so Daddy's jumping to Bama there. Two more intriguing names. One, I think maybe is your next best young option if you're going to get a pure college guy. That is Kevin Johns, the Duke offensive coordinator. He's only 47 years old, and he still has plenty of offensive coordinator experience. He's been the OC at Memphis, Texas Tech briefly, Western Michigan, a long stint at Indiana for that little stretch was the OC, quarterbacks coach, and wide receiver. Spent a few years there as the co-OC as well. Good run at Duke this past year for Kevin Johns. A bit more of an under-the-radar name, but a ascending coach you should probably consider. The final name we'll get to here in a moment, but first, if you want more Alabama football videos, this is the right spot. We're going to keep trying to do more for you, but we need you to subscribe. It's free. After all, hit that sub button right now for us here on YouTube. It's youtube.com/@RollTideTV. Joe Moorhead is next up here, the Akron head coach. A report saying that he's probably going to stay with the Zips. I actually would like this hire a lot for the Crimson Tide. I would also wonder if the report of him staying with Akron is I'm not going to get the Bama job, therefore I'm not actually jumping for the Bama job because it's Akron. That's not exactly a good gig. I think the Bama one is much better. Defensive coordinator stuff coming up next year, but I want to hear your predictions in the comments section. Who will Alabama end up hiring as its next offensive coordinator? Let me know in the comments section right now. Let's move now to the defensive side of the football. Jeremy Pruitt, yes, return of Pruitt potentially, appears to be a top target, but there are some complications with this front. The problem that you're running into with Pruitt is because of that NCAA investigation and all the stuff that comes along with it from his time at Tennessee, you would actually require Greg Sankey to get permission to sign off on a Pruitt to Alabama move. So that, I think, is their ideal option. It's been what the buzz has been on the message boards, etc., as it relates to Pruitt, but no guarantee that it's approved by the SEC. Hugh Freeze, of course, got the Auburn job, but it's worth mentioning that had already been handed out and divvied out the punishment. The investigation was all over. Not quite the case right now for Pruitt, who is currently unemployed, was a Giants defensive analyst last year. So when it comes to the DC search, who will Nick Saban hire to replace Pete Golding? Get those predictions in for me in the comments section right now. Who do you think Saban will hire as his next defensive coordinator? Pruitt, of course, is the big name on that list. It would appear one of the fallback options is Glenn Schumann, the Georgia co-defensive coordinator. Some more Georgia-Alabama coaching staff trades, right? Schumann's career is fascinating to me. He began as not a football player, but as a Alabama student assistant from 2008 to 2011. Said, I'm going to go be a coach. He was a grad assistant after that. The Alabama director of football operations jumps over to Georgia with Kirby Smart, was their inside linebackers coach, and is now the co-defensive coordinator for the Bulldogs. Bringing him back to the alma mater would make a lot of sense, especially if you can't land Jeremy Pruitt. The other name, this one mentioned in Death by Rivals, was Todd Grantham, and I don't know if I love that one that much. Grantham is a long-time defensive coordinator. Georgia, Louisville, Mississippi State, Florida. Spent some time in the NFL with the Dallas Cowboys. Was the Browns defense coordinator. He's been a long-time DC, but things have not always been the best for Grantham, in part because, maybe he's not quite getting the best teams or whatever. But again, this would be the Nick Saban school for coaches who can't coach, go and do other stuff good too mindset. But is it good enough for the Crimson Tide? I'm not so sure. So let's look at some more fired coaches, because that often works out pretty well for Saban. Jeff Collins, the former Georgia Tech head coach who took over play calling for the Yellow Jackets, got fired. It didn't go very well. He'd been linked to the Arkansas D.C. job. He, of course, was the Temple head coach, Florida D.C., Mississippi State D.C. for a while there. I wouldn't mind this one at all. I am very curious, and maybe it's just never going to happen again for him, with Jimmy Lake. That is the former Washington defensive coordinator. Was there for a couple years as the DC, and the co-DC was sticking around and gets promoted with Chris Peterson leaving. And then things fell apart in disastrous fire. Shoved his players at one point, was spent without pay. They paid his buyout, did not pay him did not fire him for cause there. He's not coached since then. Maybe he gets back in, but there were a lot of people like Jimmy Lake with the Huskies. But at this point, I wonder if he's going to end up coaching again, frankly. Finally, and I'm very curious what ends up happening here, Jim Leonhard, the former Wisconsin defensive coordinator. Leonhard, I really would have thought, I thought he had a real shot to get the Wisconsin job, period. But he's not coaching. There's no job for him right now. They still owe him a pretty good amount of money, about $1 million in the end. But he could be an NFL DC. There was teams wanted him, Browns, Packers, etc. So I'm very curious to see what ends up happening. For Leonhard, I think that'd be a home run hire if he wants to coach. Maybe he wants to take a year off. I'm not really sure what's going on there. We will keep you guys covered, though, so make sure you are subscribed. YouTube.com/@RollTideTV.